Hey everyone, and welcome to the flipped communication presentation. In this presentation, we're going to go over what is flipped communication and how you can start using it in your school. So when you're in Canvas, you got a link to this presentation and prompts you to make your own copy. So you can take notes as you watch this on your copy. You can use it if you want to, and again, you can delete it, whatever you want to do with it, it's your copy. This is Heather Nussbaum, by the way, that will be leading you through this presentation, and it is one of my favorite topics, so we are going to go ahead and get started. So when I look at these three pictures, on the left I think of a newsletter, in the middle I think of a faculty meeting, although that faculty meeting kind of looks a little bit better than some of the faculty meetings I've been a part of. It looks like a principal's up there talking and staff's paying attention. I see food, I see coffee mugs, so that's why it kind of remind me of a faculty meeting. But everyone's paying attention, so that looks a little bit better than I have seen. And the last picture on the right, I consider, it can be one of two things, but for this I think it's when we do PD sessions, maybe on like those half days this year or teacher work days, and we go into one of our fellow teachers' classrooms and sit there to get PD in a room. It's either that or it's like parents at an open house, but for the purpose of this presentation, it's a PD session in a classroom. So when I look at those three pictures, I consider these traditional communication. And the big question is, well, why? Why would these be considered traditional as opposed to like new, emerging, cool, innovative ways of communication? So when I think of that, I have to think, I get the answers all the time, they're low tech. Yeah, they are pretty low tech. But the big thing to me that makes these traditional is the fact that it's kind of what we've always done. Newsletters haven't always been around. I think they gained their popularity while I was in school, but it's almost time to phase those out because there's so many new innovative ways that we can do stuff in the classroom now. So I remember I didn't get newsletters growing up because they had to be typed on a typewriter, but when I was in college, I had to do like a introductory newsletter to let parents know about me when I went into my student teaching classes. So like I spent a lot of time with like the formatting, colors, making it pretty, and I made a newsletter. And then when I got my own class, I started doing a newsletter because that's what I knew. As far as meetings and PD sessions, I've wanted to become a teacher since fourth grade, and I remember I'd try and stay at school with my fourth grade teacher every day, and she'd be like, but your mom's at the fence to walk you home, and I would just be like, she can walk home, it's okay, I want to stay here with you. And my teacher would be like, I can't, I have a meeting. Now in fourth grade, I didn't know what that meant, but I knew that teachers went to meetings, so it's just something that they've always done. So that's why I consider these traditional. But the big question is, why haven't these changed? So many other things in education have changed, but these things have kind of stayed the same. And I think that's kind of what this prompted me to do this presentation. It's time for a change because so much has changed in our world since we were doing these types of forms of traditional communication. A lot of you have probably heard of a flipped classroom, and they have a ton of information about why they're so successful, but if you haven't heard about them, basically a traditional classroom is when you have the kids in your class, you teach them how to divide with fractions, and you do your whole presentation in the front of the room. At the end of the day, they go home with like a worksheet to do their homework at home about dividing with fractions. Flipped would mean that the students view your presentation at home and then they come into school ready to work, and the teacher becomes more of a facilitator. If you click this picture, it takes you to visually, it's called, and it's a whole bunch of statistics. So this is a cool tool for infographics, but a couple statistics that really stand out to me. Right here, why do we need a new strategy for the classroom? Only 69% of freshmen finish high school. There are 7,200 dropouts each day and 1.3 million dropouts each year. That's not North Carolina. That is within the country, but still, those are really alarming numbers to me. Where I grew up, everyone went to college. So when I went to college, I met friends from like Southern Maryland, and they would call my friends like college boy, and I'm like, why do they call you that? And he'd be like, well, no one goes to college down here. And it was like mind-boggling. I didn't realize that that was such a big issue within the United States, and now I know that it's an issue, and seeing these numbers scares me as an educator. The other thing in here that's a really cool statistic, this is a case study that was done at a high school in Michigan, and they flipped their classrooms. Now, the whole school got on board with doing this. So it wasn't just like one teacher or a couple teachers doing it. It was the whole school doing it with fidelity and really trying to do this whole new method. But the English failure rate dropped from 52 to 19%. The math failure rate went from 44 to 13%, and social studies went 28 to 9%. But my favorite statistics are these ones in the white box, that attendance went up and discipline went down. And then look at the ninth grade failure rate. It dropped 33% in 1 year. That's crazy to me. So if they had this much success with flipping their classroom, why don't we use that model somewhere else in education if it's being so successful? So with that, let me go back into my presentation. So I think the big reason that teachers don't change their classroom much is because here's our comfort zone. We have done what we've always known to do. We, model best teachers that we've had, or even coworkers that we admire as a teacher. We admire what they do, and we kind of follow what they have done. So that's what we're comfortable with. That's how we were trained to teach. But I think when I was trained to teach in college, I'm sure if I went back there now, the things that they're teaching them now are so different. So our comfort zones are almost too old school. We have to change up, and we have to step out of our comfort zone. And when we step out of our comfort zone, that's where the magic happens. But it can be really frightening. I'm going to have a lot of you that are going to be like, I don't want to make a video. I don't want to see my face on the video. I hate hearing myself. I hate hearing myself too. But right now you're not even seeing my face. So that's a really cool feature that we're going to talk about, how to make these videos. But I'm stepping out of my comfort zone, but it's for the betterment of my students, which is the important part of education. So why do we need to flip communication? This video is my favorite reason why, so I'm going to let you listen for a second. Okay, so it's Charlie Brown voice, a big thing I think about. I was at a 9:15 to 4:15 school, and our faculty meetings would be at 7:30 in the morning. 7:30 is really early for those 9:15 schools. Now, if you're a 7:15 school, like a high school, you might be like, man, I wish I could not get to school till 7:30. But think about on the flip side, for those early schools like 7:15 to 2:15, and then they have faculty meetings at night or later in the afternoon, they get out and they're like, look at this traffic. Traffic's terrible. Well, yeah, when you get out at rush hour every day. So there's pros and cons to, school hours. But think about how if you're sitting in a faculty meeting and you're tired because it's 7:30, I remember sitting in those meetings and I would say 90% of our teachers had coffee, and they would just sit there and just kind of be like, oh my gosh, I know you're talking, but I'm not really getting anything out of the meeting because my brain is just not ready for this. So we have to think about the effectiveness of our faculty meetings and our professional development sessions. Are we really reaching the staff like we want to reach them? Are they ready and engaged at 7:30 in the morning, or do it's like talking to a brick wall? Besides for staff to do flip communication, as a teacher, doing flip communication can be really beneficial for a lot of reasons. We have some parents who work and can't get to school during the day or for events at night. And it's not that they don't care about their kid or they don't want their kid to go see their kid at night, but maybe they work third shift and they just can't come. Or maybe your school's not on a bus route and they don't have a car. So the only reason their kid gets to your school during the day is because they take the bus. So those are real issues that we have to consider, and we can't just be like, oh, they don't care. They really might care, but they might have a good reason why they can't come. So if we flip our communication and video stuff that's going on in our classrooms, they'll feel more a part of the whole class environment and know what's going on in their kids' education. Along with our faculty meetings being kind of not as effective as they could be. Think about your newsletters. I know when I type newsletters, I spent a ton of time making the colors nice, pictures, formatting, and I never knew how often they were actually being read. So I actually talked to a couple of my parents and I said, "What do you guys look for in my newsletter?" And I had like an upcoming events box, and they'd be like, "Oh, we just read the upcoming events box, put things on our calendar and throw it out." And I was like, wow. Because all that time I spent, what we're doing in math. They didn't really care what we were doing in math. They wanted to know when the kids were going to be tested on what we were doing in math. So that was really eye-opening to me. I wasn't really reaching my parents the way I wanted to. Another thing is if we start doing flip communication like newsletters as a video, videos can be housed in one place and won't get lost in a backpack. So I taught 5th grade, and 5th grade boys is when they figure out how messy they can be, I swear. So I had a newsletter and I attached a permission slip to it, and I never got the permission slip back. Well, the boy's mom happened to work in my school, so I was like, hey, Ethan never turned in his permission slip. And she was like, what permission slip? I was like, the one that was attached to the newsletter last week. And she was like, what newsletter? We opened Ethan's backpack and it was shoved in the bottom, accordion style, snacks from who knows how long ago were in there. And he was like, oh yeah, I was supposed to give this to you. So for those parents that don't go through backpacks at night, are those newsletters even getting to the parents' hands? Something to think about. Now, I had the type of parent when I came home, my mom would like empty my backpack, go through my folder, make sure I had everything filled out that needed to be filled out and signed. But for parents that don't do that, or kids that are super sloppy and forgetful, it'd be really cool if you had all your videos housed in one place and they knew that they could go watch your video every week or go on there as often as they need to get updates without relying on the messy kid. The other two things on here that I think are really important are the engagement and building relationships. I taught in a pretty rough school, and I had parents tell me, well, I don't like coming to school for faculty or for parent-teacher conferences, not because I don't like you, I just don't like teachers. Because they had a bad experience with teachers when they went through school, so they still hold like a negative feeling toward teachers, and they didn't want to come in for a parent-teacher conference because they were nervous I was going to say something bad about their kids. But if I had videos that went home and showed them, the cool things I'm doing in my class and what's going on, it kind of makes them be like, oh, she does have the best interest in mind for my kids. She does know what she's doing. I get a lot of times that I look super young, so they didn't even think I was out of college. So, proving to them that you're doing really good things in your classroom helps build that relationship. They know who you are from your videos, and they know what's going on in your classroom. Also, I think videos are really good for kindergarten, 6th grade, and 9th grade when they switch buildings a lot of times, because you could do like a tour of your building. They'll come for like their 6th grade open house and, walk through the building to find where things are. But I'm with my friends, so I act super cool and I don't act like I'm a little nervous. I don't know where things are. But if you put out a video to give them the tour, that will help. Or if you have a new student coming to your school, you could have that video and then they'll feel a little more at home to understand where things are. So just, having that welcome video, introduction video can really help house or help fix some of the nerves that kids go through when they switch schools or when they just start in a new classroom. So it can be really engaging and fun for those kids to log on and see a video. So I have a bunch of positive quotes in here. I started with the comfort zone picture, and here's another quote, and I have some more in here. Get the content to your followers instead of making them come to you to find it. So you are the most knowledgeable person in your classroom, almost always, on whatever topic you're teaching. So why do we sometimes keep things from our kids? Or parents, how many parent emails will you get about when's the next test, or when's the permission slip for this coming out? When, keeping them informed through these videos can actually cut down on the amount of email questions you get from your kids. If you post information and content for them to come and get, instead of having them to come to you to find it. So if they knew they could just go online to get answers to their questions, that will solve a lot of headaches and emails and full mailboxes. So it's just something to think about. This video is one of my favorite types of videos. I consider a make your learning visible. This is you could do a day in the life type video. Beyond a day in the life, that's too, a day in the life is kind of frequent. But you could do a week in the life in Miss N's classroom. You could definitely set up something to show what's going on in your classroom. So, branding yourself and branding your school. We've had these letters associated with our schools for the past 2 years. Are you an A school? Are you a D school? Are you an F school? Well, you might be a D school and have that negative idea that follows in the surrounding neighborhood, oh, I don't want to send my kid there because that's a D school. But have you shown the great things you're doing in your school? You're going through a change. Do you see how your admin's supportive and what's going on? What makes your school or your classroom so great? So branding yourself is something I believe in. Branding CMS, branding your school to show, hey, look at all these great things. So instead, if I search your school, if I type in Carmel Middle School, and there are all these videos associated with the positive, you get to drown out the negative. So you're branding that school to be something great. Changing perceptions is really important. So I'm going to have you guys watch this video, and then I'm going to talk about some things I like and some things that I don't like. There's only really one thing I don't like, but we'll talk about what those are.
Everyone, this is going to be my last flip communication before I take my leave on December 6th. So I wanted to take a moment to thank all of you for what you do for your kids and for the rest of the Post and Kill community. The past few weeks have been really busy, but absolutely fun. I wanted to share with you what has been going on around here at Post and Kill School. First of all, we had a very successful food drive. It was sponsored by our kindergarten team. This is a picture of Mrs. Anadio and her students walking down the hallway with all the non-perishable food items. Thank you for all the parents who donated items from their home. Secondly, second grade held their annual stone soup for lunch, which is based on the very famous book. Thanks to all the parents who helped make it successful. No one broke a tooth, and all in all, there was some really great food. A big thanks to Monica Naller, Trish O'Donnell, and all the parents who donated their time to make our Scholastic Book Fair so successful. It was successful from a monetary standpoint, but more importantly, our students read a combined 33,205 minutes. That's up from 14,000 minutes from last year. And it was always really great to have Clifford join the day. And lastly, today was one of our favorite days of the whole entire year. It was Grandparents and Special Persons Day. A special thank you to Sarah Dio, Kathy Wood, and all of our PTA who helped donate their time, and for all of you who donated food. As you can tell, and if you notice, there's a common theme, and it's all about you. So whether you helped at home or at school, you make the PES a great community. From all of us here at PES, we hope you have a happy Thanksgiving, and for those of you who celebrate, a very happy Hanukkah. Goodbye.
So the thing I can't stand about that video is that goodbye at the end. He does such a great job, and then it's just kind of a boring ending. So think of a cool sign off. But some other things that are really great about that video, look at the time at the bottom right here, 1:56. That video is sub 2 minutes. You'll also notice it's posted on YouTube, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But sub 2 minute videos is pretty quick. It would take me longer to read your newsletter. So I really like how he highlights what's going on in his school. So if I was a parent that contributed to the food drive and I wanted to see where my contributions were going, or if I was a parent who couldn't get to school but I gave money for my kid to go to the book fair, to see that those contributions were used in a positive way. Keeps me up to date with what's going on in the school. It's also really good. I know in Charlotte we have a lot of parents that work in banking and they travel a lot. So, one mom, like the one parent might be home and the other one travels. Well, if the other one's traveling and they call their child and they're like, what'd you do in school today? Nothing. What'd you learn in school today? Nothing. But if you had a video, that parent could go online even if they were traveling and watch what's going on. And then when they talk to their kid, they can be like, hey, I saw you guys had a book fair. Did you get any new books? I see you had a food drive. So it just gives them things to talk about to stay connected even though they're not physically here for those things. So it's actually a really cool concept that can really help with branding yourself and showing off what's going on in your classroom or in your school. So how do I start? I get this question a lot. When I started this slide, I had like step 1, do this, step 2, do this. And then I was like, nope, the only thing they need to do is have a plan. You just need to know, what do you want to talk about? What is important? And then we can figure out the rest. This is my page with a ton of other quotes on it. I love the, if plan A didn't work, the alphabet has 25 more cut letters. Stay cool. Kind of reminds me of something Kid President would say. So, the first time you do this, you might be like, oh my gosh, that was a terrible video. They'll get better as you go. Just be open to trying. It's okay. So try something different. Step out of your comfort zone. So all we need to do is to have a plan. Mistakes are proof that you are trying. You're going to notice, or maybe you didn't notice, in that video that I just showed you, the principal fumbled over his words with like helped and home, and he just kept going. It's okay if you make a small mistake, keep going. This is not meant to be something that's supposed to take you 2 hours on a Saturday or a Sunday. Football's on, you have better things to do. Kids have athletics, that kind of stuff on the weekend, family time. So don't spend forever trying to record these videos. If you mess up a little, just keep going. Kids love when we make mistakes. It kind of shows them that we're human. So don't worry about it. Now, if you make a big mistake, that's another story. I was doing a video like this about advanced Google search options, and I was like, all right, guys, so the last thing I want to show you is really cool. Google lets you search your results by reading level. Let me show you how you do it. I go to do it, and it's not there. The option's not there. So I hit pause, or I refresh, and I was like, oh, you know how I'm recording. You know how computers can be. Refresh fixes like 90% of the issues. Well, I refresh, still not there. So I pause it and I do some research and they got rid of that feature. And I was like, oh man. But I had to go back and record that whole video because it was a big mistake. But usually my videos are like 1 or 2 tries and I'm done. Something like this is a 1 try thing. If I tried to be perfect over this whole presentation, I'd be here forever making these videos. So just keep that in mind. Mistakes are proof that you're trying. A bunch of tools that are really helpful. One thing to know is if you click on each of these pictures, they are linked to a tutorial made either by the Instructional Technology Department or like that tool itself that shows you how to use it. So when you have your own copy of this presentation, just keep in mind that you can click on these pictures to get information about those tools. So I'll just kind of talk about them briefly. TouchCast used to be just an iPad app. It recently came out with a desktop version, and I would say it's the most robust tool on this list. There is green screens, teleprompters, you can make it look like you're sitting behind a desk and have like a news ticker scrolling across the bottom. That's really cool. I love it, but if you're new to this, it can be really overwhelming. So just keep that in mind. If you've done some screencasts before and you want to try something a little harder, make your video look a little cooler, you can do TouchCast. So it's a great tool. It's free. I love it, but just keep in mind that there's a lot of options. My favorite 2 on here, well, I have a bunch, but Screencast-O-Matic and Screencastify are my 2 favorite for beginners. Screencastify, you can do a Google extension, and it will pop up with like a picture in your Chrome toolbar that looks like an old school film picture. You click that, and you can click the camera to record a camera, so it'll turn on your webcam. You can click screen or the tab you're in. So you click that, and then once you're done recording, you can click Save to Google Drive or YouTube. So it can go right to your YouTube channel, or it can go right into your Google Drive. So it has some really easy features to use that are really simple, and I really like it for teachers who are starting out. I use it all the time still. Screencast-O-Matic's very similar. The cool thing about Screencast-O-Matic is the mouse will have, like, you can put a little hue around it, like a little yellow circle to kind of show where you're pointing. If you're demonstrating how to do something or how to use a tool, Screencast-O-Matic's really great as well. Google Hangouts on Air are phenomenal. Sometimes they're a little tricky to get into because it's linked through your Google Plus profile. Students don't have Google Plus, so that's really only helpful if you were making the video. If you wanted your kids to start making videos, I wouldn't do Google Hangouts. But it's basically like Google versions of Skype is kind of how I would give you an analogy of it. But the neat thing, if you do a Google Hangout on Air, it's broadcasting it live as you do it, and when you're done, it gives you a YouTube link right away. So it automatically loads to YouTube as well. And you can screen share. You know, when my mom breaks something on her computer, we do a Hangout, and she shares her screen with me, and then I tell her where to click to fix whatever she's messed up. So it's a really good option. YouTube's on this list as well, which might surprise some of you. YouTube is here because it is not just a video hosting site anymore. You can actually create videos in YouTube now. So I just wanted to, and there's a tutorial linked on how to do it. So it's just something I wanted you guys to be aware of, that you can now make videos in YouTube as well. But that kind of brings me to the next slide. Posting your video. Where are you going to post your stuff? YouTube. And that's going to scare some people, but here's the cool thing about YouTube. When I say YouTube, everybody knows what I'm talking about. If you say Vimeo, you're going to get some parents who are like, oh, here's CMS, something new they want us to know. Here they go again, something weird. If you say YouTube, no one will even think twice. So post it, you say like, oh, I post all my videos on YouTube. They know what you're talking about. So, you know, so many people have the app on their phone and they can watch your videos on their phone. They know how to get there on a computer or an iPad. So, you know, it's just something, the ease and the I can never say that word, your ability to know how to get to that tool, they will be comfortable with. Some other cool things about YouTube, you can turn commenting on and off. So if you have a parent who, no matter what you say, is kind of negative or trying to bring you down, turn commenting off. They'll never know. Other cool things, you can see your views. So that's really nice, because when that principal that I showed you guys the video of earlier started making videos, he noticed that, like, ooh, my stuff isn't being watched. Oh, so he was like, I wonder why. Well, he was reiterating what was in his videos in his staff meetings, so he had to change things up. And once he started putting secret messages in, like, if you watch this video, wear jeans on Wednesday, you'll know real quick who watched your video, because every teacher loves to wear jeans. Or he'd put message, you know, when they watch the video, they'd come to the staff meeting, he'd be like, based on the video, if you're group A, go here, if you're group B, go here, group C, go here. If you didn't watch the video, you kind of do one of those fake it till you make it, pick a room, but the next time you're like, ooh, I need to watch that video. So making the content important, but knowing your views is really helpful. You also, another reason I like YouTube, you already have a YouTube channel. You might not know it, but it's linked through your CMS account. So you just have to, like, activate it. But it's on. You can sign into YouTube and you will have your own channel. So you can have, like, Miss N's channel, you know, Irwin Academic Center's channel, you know, Irwin PTA if a parent wanted to set one up. So you could do a lot of options with it. There's also 3 posting, like, styles that you can do in YouTube. So there's public, which means anybody in the world can look up your video. Unlisted is anyone with the link can view your video. So that kind of reminds me of our Google Share settings. Anyone with the link can see it. And then there's private, which means no one can see it. So a lot of times when I make videos for schools, I make them as unlisted, and I just share my link with parents or with a school so they can see it. So it's just a nice, you do have some privacy factors in there that you might have not been aware of with YouTube. So a couple tips. Don't become a restart junkie. Allow yourself to make mistakes. I've made some in this video, and that's okay. I want you to sit down, make a 2-minute video, and be done with it. Don't spend forever. If I was going to do this, I might just open a Google Slides presentation and I have pictures on my device and I put the pictures as a whole page in my presentation, so one picture per page. And then all I'm going to do is record over my presentation. So I'll put put Screencastify on, do screen recording, and then hit record, and then just flip through my pictures and talk about what happened in my school or my classroom that week. Some teachers even, change a classroom job after they start doing this and have someone be the class photographer. And the kids, when something cool's going on, you ask them to grab the iPad and take pictures. So then it kind of takes the picture taking off of you. They'll know when something cool's going on. The only thing I will say about pictures and videos, just make sure if you have kids in your pictures that their CMS photo and video release form are signed. So just be aware of if you have any kids in your class who parents say they can't be in photo and video. So just keep that in mind. The other tip, don't use a script. Teach. If you write a script, like, hey everyone, welcome to this week's video, you're writing a newsletter. So why don't you just write a newsletter then? So you can use bullet points, but don't write a script. So I'm really bad at dates. I would be like, okay, they have a test on Wednesday the 27th. Get to the video and be like, their next math test will be Wednesday the 26th, 8th, 7th, 27? Nope, 26th. Okay, the 27th. I'm one of those people. I would need a list with bullet points like math test and then have the date next to it. Maybe what unit it is. Field day is this day. So having a list of things that you need to make sure you say, that's totally fine. Put it on a sticky note so it takes you really quick to have those little notes, but don't write a script. If the tool you use has a pause button, go ahead and get used to it. If you feel yourself getting lost or you're like, oh, I forgot to put this picture in the presentation, pause, add the picture, and then go back to recording. So just keep that in mind and keep it short. These videos shouldn't be long. Like, don't do one that's as long as this video. That would be terrible. So short and sweet, to the point. Remember your options when recording. Be clever and creative. The more personality you have in your videos, the better. If you're boring and monotone, that's not exciting. So try and have some excitement in your videos. Be funny. You might have not even noticed, but that principal tried to make a joke. Some of you might have gotten it, but he was talking about stone soup, and he said no one broke a tooth. So like, haha, they didn't eat a stone and break their tooth. So, he tried to make little jokes in there. So trying to add some personality and funniness would be a really good idea. So this book is something I highly recommend. I call it a book, but it's more like a pamphlet. It's super short. Flipping leadership doesn't mean reinventing the wheel. The principal that I had in that video was the person who wrote this book, Peter DeWitt. So he has other videos online, like he does like playground rules, and he has someone record them out on the playground, and he goes over how to go down the slide properly and shows the kids how to do it, which is fun to watch your principal go down a slide. But also on the first day of school, teachers just show that video before they go out to recess to talk about playground rules. So, and if a kid misbehaves on the playground, you can be like, oh, do you remember that video? Maybe you need to rewatch it. So I really highly recommend this book. It's a quick read. I bought it off Amazon for super cheap. So just an option. If you need, well, you already have today's link for today's presentation. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick a tool, like go through all those tools that I suggested in my tools slide. Watch the tutorials on them, pick one you want to try. So choose that tool, and then you're going to make a Meet the Teacher video. It could be for this year. It could be maybe you have semester change if you're in a secondary school. Maybe you'll use it as a practice for next year, but just make like a intro of who you are, your contact information, what students can expect to learn. Make a video. You're going to start your YouTube channel and post your video there. Your DOM for this section of Flip Communication is this Meet the Teacher video, and you're going to submit your YouTube link. So we want to see that you successfully started that YouTube channel and have put your video on there. Make sure you don't post your video as private, because then we won't be able to see it with the link. So do unlisted. So go ahead and try your best with your video. Remember, be fun. Don't be a restart junkie. If you're not comfortable with it, don't worry about it. If you don't want your picture on there, I had a teacher who, made a little presentation about her and like put videos of her hometown or pictures of her hometown, her family, and kind of talked over the presentation so her face is not in the presentation at all. So that's an option. So just try it out. Do your best. Remember, you're not usually great to start, and that's okay. We look forward to watching your videos. Bye, guys.